G'day and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. Haven't made one in more than a month, so I need to do some practice. But things are starting to move in the Aptera camp amongst the fanboys, and so I figured here's a good time to come back. I'm back. Now, I'm not going to show my face. You just get me in the intro, because otherwise I'll be taking hours and hours to remove my pregnant pauses. I don't want to practice speaking. I just want to make comments on the nonsense that is the interview between Chad from Drive the Lightning and the Ninja, Jeff from the Ninjaneer. And I won't use the whole video, it's too long and boring. But I'll just make short comments on parts of it. Well, probably long comments on short parts of it. Anyway, that's it from looking at my ugly face, and just listen to the meaning of what I have to say. Intelligent comments are welcome, as always, because I never get any. Not from fanboys, anyway. Dumbest posts. Okay, let's go.
We've lost like $60 in value. Oh no, it's terrible. No, guys. Okay.
Chad with Drive Lightning, the Positively Charged YouTube channel. Today I'm with Jeff, the Ninjaneer, YouTuber extraordinaire,
YouTuber extraordinaire. That's rubbish.
Aptera solar motor vehicle investor, EV enthusiast, and EV reporter. Jeff, thanks for being here to talk about Aptera with us today.
Watch him use his hands. I didn't think he had Italian in him, but if you tied his hands behind his back, he probably couldn't talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. You will literally catch me anytime. You could just like throw me a message. I will be there. Like you guys are my favorite channel. I gotta,
Oh,
you know,
stop.
I gotta represent over here.
It's very kind of you to say, and you're definitely our favorite channel. We watch everything you put out. We find it fascinating, and we're grateful for it. I want to talk to you about what's happened recently. Of course, the big news you reported on your channel, we've talked about it on our channel, is the initial public offering. I know that's kind of become like, is it really an initial public offering? But Aptera is now active on NASDAQ.
No, it's not an initial public offering. It's nothing like an initial public offering. It's actually a direct public offering, and it's wrong to call it an IPO.
And with that comes opportunity for huge growth. Now anybody can invest at any time, and Aptera can sell shares to Circle Capital, I think it's called, raise money and get to production. So I'm super excited by it. I'm not caring so much about the number where it's at. Some people are saying, well, the stock tanked. Well, not really, because it didn't really have an actual value, right? Until people start buying it. What's your take on that? Like, not that we would ever give advice on stocks, you and I, but what's your take, just as an enthusiast, on the stock number, how it fluctuates, or what is? Have any idea? I think you did a show about what that means a little bit. Could you share with us some of that?
These guys pretend that DPO is a good thing, but if you look at other websites, if you do your research, you'll find that it's a bad thing.
Sure. So the first thing, it's interesting that there was a lot of chatter about how people were like, "Oh, we've lost like $60 in value. Oh no, it's terrible." No, guys. Okay, you gotta understand. Stock doesn't have value until it's associated with something real.
And this is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard him say. And I don't even know how the fanboys, particularly the investors, have swallowed this, because when they pay $14.80 a share and have them split so that they've paid $44.40 a share, and Aptera Motors itself says their value is about $40, expected value when it appears on NASDAQ, they're not thinking they've paid all that money to have a zero value. Even the ones that have that silly idea that they're doing it all to donate to a worthy cause, they don't really think that they're just throwing their money down and it's going to be worth zero. But that's what this clown is trying to convince people of. I can't imagine that guy at the top of the investment tree that paid $4 million as a donation to a worthy cause and expects that he has just bought zero value worth of shares. That's crazy.
Until the moment Aptera stock went on sale, it was worth $0. Just point blank period, it was worth zero. The fact that it's at $8 now is phenomenal in my opinion because the price that people paid to get into investing in Aptera was their own decision. And most people tend to like say things like, "Oh, it's it's bad that Aptera stock went down because of this, that, and the other," or the way that they sold the stock at first was weird, or there's a whole bunch of man, you should see my comments, it's crazy. But anyway, so long story short, the value of Aptera, the perceived value of Aptera was based on an estimation. And that estimation is how they decided how to sell the stock and what to sell the stock at. When that estimation meets reality, it's going to be different, regardless of whether or not it was up or down or whatever. It's going to be different. And so now that we have tangible in reality numbers for what Aptera stock is worth according to investors and supply and demand and stuff, now we can start to get a real reference point for what Aptera can be worth as far as what people actually perceive like in reality. Like that right now we are in reality. $44 or like I think it was 44.40 was the perceived value. Somebody took some numbers on some paper and said this is about how much it should be worth. And then when it came to when it actually started going on sale, we learned that the estimation was not where the perceived value was. So that's basically what's happened so far.
No, 44.40 is what they paid. It wasn't a perceived value. It was what they handed over per share that they have when it goes on NASDAQ. They paid 44.40. Nothing perceived about it. It was real money. This is where the idiot tries to con people into thinking things that are not right. Aptera Motors said, I think, or we think, it'll be around $40. That's their perceived value, and it closed on the first day at $7.53, well below the perceived value. But the 753 is a very large net loss per share on those who paid 44.40 for them. On the second day, it dropped down to $5.82, something like that. On the third day, and we've only had 3 days so far, $5.28. It's on a downward trajectory. These clowns try to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, and all I can say is watch the NASDAQ every day and watch your money go down to not a perceived value, but a real value of next to nothing. It may even become nothing.
Um, but yeah, oh, speaking of which, kind of jumping back to your actual question here, I'm sorry I went on a tangent. And everybody was like, whoa, my goodness. They're not on the roads yet. You can't buy an Aptera yet. So everything that people say about what Aptera can do, Chris and Steve talking about the fact that it can go 40 miles a day, all that kind of stuff, that is all perceived. And so even if the numbers are based in reality, they are perceived until somebody can drive it down the road and buy it. And so that affects how the stock moves. And any stock that I've seen where they're not yet offering a product always goes down. Anyway, they went public and they tanked so fast, like y'all thought Aptera tanked fast. You should have seen this one. Anyway, minutes, because they had no data that could substantiate their claim, their stock plummeted in minutes to uh, just right around $1.50, something like that. Um, that is how it goes until you have product in hand, stuff on the road, people enjoying your product, whatever that product may be. If you go public, you're probably going to lose value unless you have somebody that's really good at hyping, like hype man, something. I don't know. Yeah.
Where Aptera is now, the idea is informing the public, educating the public, letting people see it. And I think already this coming Tuesday, they're going to be at an event already. So
Yes.
getting people's eyes on it. They've talked about getting a couple on the road, going around the country.
This coming Tuesday, an event at Scottsdale, Arizona, I think it is, a way out of the way place, 1 day event, charging people over $50 to have a little ride in it, probably just once around the block. Over $28, I think it was, to talk to that motor mouth that is Chris Anthony. I don't know what he's going to tell them that he hasn't publicly said for nothing 500 times over. In any case, that event is an absolute watered down event when you compare it with the promises. It was supposed to be a cross-America road trip to show off the farter mess. But then when they came out with it, and it wasn't public, this is the first public showing, but when they had a private showing and then made the video, they promised that the road trip was going to be 5 close California cities over about 3 days, and that would be it. But it was still going to be summer, and summer's gone, and that's been cancelled as well. These people are hiding something. Fartimes, after its hour out in the sun, got hidden back inside the empty warehouse and hasn't been seen since. They are hiding it. They're hiding the PI3 Gemini. By now, that should have been built and validated all their performance claims, their highly exaggerated claims. So while Chad's putting a little positive spin, that's all he can do on his positively charged channel, is positive spin. While he's putting his positive spin on the Scottsdale showing, it's an absolute joke compared to what they should have been doing and promised to do. I know all the fanboys are going to say, oh, no, it wasn't a promise. And no, they never promised. Yeah, it's just laughable. Anyway, while I'm at it, when I first came onto this channel, there was about 68, I think, comments. And I read through all the comments, and I couldn't find any disappointing comments from fanboys, which is unusual because at the time, over the couple of days that the NASDAQ had started, there were videos that had like 80% of disappointment from people who had invested, and they were really cheesed off. Now, on those other ones that have something like 80% of disappointments, you get through 68 comments on Chad's channel, and I think it was like 99% all positive. No disappointed ones in there. So what's the point of this? The only thing I can think of is that he must have just blocked all day all the comments that were coming down that were disappointing, and he just took them out. That's my guess. I can't accuse him of it because I'm not in his house watching him on his laptop, but it's what I think he must have done for the first day. On the second day I looked at the comments section. There were a couple of mildly disappointing comments in there, but still nothing compared to what was usual on all the other videos that had come out. Well, I'll keep going.
Here's a question I had about the staff. This is something that came up just about like 2 days before the NASDAQ listing. I was talking to some people that are pretty savvy investors about the way it's happening. And two people told me, said, here's the problem with them going to NASDAQ as a direct listing. There's nothing to stop the founders from cashing in their chips, basically selling all their stock, taking the cash and walking away. And I said, well, there's one thing stopping them. I know them, like person to person. I've spent time with Chris Anthony. Sarah and I have spent over an hour with Chris Anthony on our channel and in person in Carlsbad. He gave us an interview. There's something about the people involved that gives you and me confidence. I want to ask your opinion in a minute. Beyond that of just a cold-hearted corporation, or just even a warm-hearted corporation that runs into hard times and things happen.
I've actually said that there's a good possibility that the founders of Aptera are going to use this as an opportunity to cash in what they've paid, something like a 10,000th of a cent per share for 15 million shares each initially. And they'll take the opportunity to cash in and run, while ordinary investors have lost all, or practically all. What they can manage to sell for is next to nothing. Now, I've said this, and I would not regard any weight in what Chad is saying there. He knows them. And I'll just point to the fact that when I watched Jay Leno and he said what happened the first time, they said that they left because they had better things to do. Now, if they can leave first time round, and this is the Jay Leno second test drive that he made of an Aptera, 2020 I think it would have been. In any case, when they can say, oh, we left because we had better things to do, that's not the kind of person that you can trust to be committed to seeing it through to production when they have money to make very quickly. I think his argument is very weak and is just pitching to the gullible. And he's got plenty of them. He's got about 50,000 of those pitching to the gullible. Oh, we know them. They wouldn't do that, or pigs will fly.
I know the people. And to me, that makes all the difference. And I can't really convey that to an audience. Do you know what I'm talking about? How about the hiring Aptera has done? What do you think about that so far? There's been quite a bit of hiring recently, up to 33 employees again, I think.
So, yeah, there's been quite a few different hirings. They announced their chief engineering officer, engineering specialist. I can't remember the position name, but
Right.
the guy who they announced to head their engineering uh, is very well paid.
How about senior vice president? In a staff of 33, he's a senior vice president, but he's not chief. These people are supposed to disseminate information, and they get it wrong all the time. And it's because there's very little between those ears. Very little.
Jeff, let me get a last prediction from you. What's the next month like for Aptera solar electric vehicles?
I suspect that within the next month or so, they're probably going to be really hammering down like the locations for their road trip. I don't know if they're going to get the road trip started before Christmas season. If they can't, then maybe the planning stages will last a little longer. But I think next month we'll have a real idea of what exactly they're going to be doing for the road trip and where they're going to be going for the road trip, and whether or not I can actually go along with them because I want to do that, but they haven't contacted me about it. So anyway, yeah,
That'd be
next
cool.
month is going to be planning for the trip, I think.
That'd be cool. And winter's coming. Why not come to Michigan in the winter? Why not go to New York
Exactly.
or Boston in the winter? Some of the biggest population centers in the U.S. they haven't even touched yet. So the future, it's like we're here with Aptera, but there's so much untapped potential. So I really think my predictions like yours. Get the road trip going because I think that's the top line.
Well, that's interesting. Both of them are talking about the road trip. That road trip that was never planned. The talk of it was cancelled. The summer went by, and even the minor road trip that they tried to replace it with, they cancelled that as well. And so they've just announced a 1 day showing at Scottsdale, and these guys are going, the road trip is back on. They're deluded. Don't they know what cancelled means? In any case, they've made a prediction. What now? Road trips. Plenty of big road trips to raise to the next level, as they always say. The next level. Now, meanwhile, watch the graph and see the next levels that it keeps going on. I'm talking about the graph on the NASDAQ. It's going down to the next level all the time. That's what's next. That's what's now. 3 days in the downward direction so far.
Check it out. If you haven't subscribed. If you don't want to subscribe, just do it because it's the right thing to do.
While he's talking about the right thing to do, I'll just remind people who are listening to this that both Jeff and Chad have blocked me, and I would say blocked many others. Now, is that the right thing to do? I think it's very low. I think it's un-American. I think they've got a lot to hide, and they are worse than me at making videos. I admit that I am pretty bad, but they are worse. They misinform.
It basically came out very shortly after Aptera IPO'd.
There he goes again. Shortly after Aptera IPO'd. That's just a lie. Aptera has not IPO'd and probably will not.
Ideas are ruminating in here. There's a lot going on.
Good.
I know it might not look that way all the time, but there's stuff going on in there. But yeah,
He thinks there's stuff going on in his head. I think it's empty. And I've just woken up. I fell asleep. Well, that's all from me. Bye for now. Stay safe.